Hello, right. This is going to be touching upon a few things that have been asked. If you have the money and you desperately want a 5,000, go for it. End of. But I will say this: if you're on a 4,000, certainly 4,000, because of DLSS 4, where you can now run games on balanced, some say performance, gain frames, and it looks better than what DLSS 3 did on quality, it kind of blurs those lines and kind of kills it for me. There's no real need for it. One of the main things I'd always say to people when it comes to buying a new GPU, great, you're going to buy a new GPU, what are you going to play? If you're struggling to play certain games now, then fair enough. But if there's nothing on the horizon, normally you can look 12 months in advance. Are there any games that's coming out that you think, that's the game for me, I'm going to spend ages playing that game, then what's the point of buying a GPU that's going to sit there, playing your old games, not really doing much, while you're waiting for something new to come out? So either skip the generation or wait for all the hype and everything in prices to settle down and then maybe come back to it. But for me, unless there's any real need or you're really struggling with certain things, perhaps hold off and look at your other stuff in your PC. The cards aren't going to get any smaller. You're looking, the 6,000 is going to be at least what the 5,000s are. So is your case going to be big enough if you are planning to upgrade? There was a lot of people got caught out with the 4,000, with the 4090s especially. I've seen people having to have the panels off, taking hacksaws to things, trying to make them fit. It was crazy. So again, is your case future prepped for any of these big GPUs you think you're going to be purchasing? Horizontal's not too much of an issue. There is a few problems there, but certainly with vertical, is your case strong? And by what I mean by that, this back part here. Now mine is dipping ever so slightly, but that's because I've pushed it out because I was messing about with some HDMIs. That'll actually push further back and it'll level it up slightly. But it doesn't matter how strong your bracket is. If your PC case is cheaper, crappier, thinner metal, when you put the card on, it'll actually bend the case and it'll sag. And it's not the bracket's fault, it's actual just the metal they used for the case. So that's another thing you need to look at as well. The other things, which is a no-brainer as such, is can your CPU supply enough to your GPU? It's all very well having a brand new GPU, but if your CPU is struggling, your GPU won't be able to run away and do what it needs to do. So you need to look at that. Motherboard, yes, there is a difference between PCI 5 and 4, but it's quite small. It's bigger at 1080p, lesser at 14, and very, very close on 4K. But certainly, if you are thinking about changing your GPUs, you need to see if your motherboard is actually running the likes of, say, at least PCI 4. This one was predominantly PCI 4, but it has the ability to do PCI 5 as well. But that was because it was a higher end motherboard one I got at the time. AMD had said that they were going to support AM5 until 2027, so I wanted a board that pretty much lasts me to 2027, so I went for the high end, and it's got all the bells and whistles and stuff on it. It's been a really nice board. It's the ASMEG MSI X670E, I think it is. Really nice board. One of the things to look out for as well is that when you're getting them, there's your PCIe Express, the main one that you plug your GPU into. Is it a dedicated one? So that means all the bandwidth goes through that one. Or is it a one, you've got a motherboard where it shares it? So the more things that you plug into your PCI lanes, it'll actually share the bandwidth, which is not a good thing. You want one that's dedicated. If you're rocking SSDs, maybe save your money, move to M.2s, which are obviously faster and smaller as well. That's another thing you can change. Your PSU, how old is it? Is it starting to show its age? By that, the connections, and also if you have, and this is the rough maths, but it's to give you a rough idea. Say you bought 1,000 watt PSU 5 years ago, it won't be doing 1,000 watts now. It'll be doing, say, maybe 900. Somebody's going to maybe correct me on that, but they basically lose efficiency over time. Depending on how good the quality the actual PSU is, that might happen slower or faster. But they don't stay at that 1,000 watt. They do drop over time. So the other thing is your PSU ready for any kind of future updates as well? And more so now because they've changed the pinning with the 12 volt, 16 pin adapters and connectors and stuff. So again, I know people want to rush out and buy that, but is everything else ready for it? Is your case the right size? Is your CPU going to be able to supply enough frames to the GPU? Your actual memory, is your memory obviously enough, and also run decent timings? That's alters between Intel and AMD. It's a bit more finicky with AMD. At the moment, I think the sweet spot is still 6,000 or 6,200, but obviously the lower timings you can get, the better. And also, the last thing I can think of really would be fans. Are your fans doing the right kind of job? CPUs on, well, Intel, it's still a bit of a problem, but AMD, it's not so much of an issue now. They really got the performance and heat down to a thing at the moment. AMD, it's certainly better. So you don't really have to worry too much on the whole cooling side. But at the same time, these things chuck out a load of heat. And they soon fill up a case of warm air. What you need to do, always make sure that the amount of air that you're actually pushing into... I hope that's Batman has just gone by because that was so loud in that car. Anyway, the air that you push in needs to be slightly less than the air that you pull out. Now, the reason for that is that when you're pushing the air in, if you push in too much and these can't pull out enough, you'll get dead air and it'll just heat up in here and it's not circulating, it's not getting drawn out. And then you'll hit a thing called heat soak where eventually parts just start to warm up and it's not great. I mean, it does take time for that to happen, but at the same time, it's just one of those things where a bit of tweaking, and you can normally go into the BIOS and look at the speeds of the actual fans and do a bit of rough working out. But I have mine that even when they do ramp up and start getting faster, that my AIO and these rear fans will work slightly harder than what these ones will. In fact, these ones on the side, I have a set speed and they never change. It's only really these bottom ones, which are slightly bigger fans, they do work harder to push the air from the GPU up, and then these are obviously going to take it out. If you have that pushing loads of air in, and you had that pushing loads of air in, and these couldn't pull it out fast enough, the air would just get dead and it's not getting drawn through, and it will cause problems not only for the GPU, but it will cause problems for the CPU because the rad at the top would just start to get heat soak and it just wouldn't be any good. So that's the other thing when I say to somebody is make sure that your exhaust is slightly higher than what your intake is. You'll see that on like things like Nexus and other people where they do their things on YouTube where they blow the smoke in and you can see where the air goes in and then gets circulated out. But if these don't pull, it just goes in and just kind of like sits in there and just gathers around, and it's not good. Anyway, I'm just kind of rambling again, which is normally my thing, but yeah, if you need a card, new card, go for it. But if not, think about your other stuff, because the last thing you want to do is buy a brand new GPU and then think that everything else is a bit sucky, and that's because your CPU is just not up to it. You haven't got enough RAM, or your PSU is struggling to actually provide power to it, or even causing your machine to actually turn off now and again because it's showing its age. Even the AIOs, depending on how long you've had the AIO in there, they do lose a bit of dissipation with the liquids in there. They have got better over the years, but after a few years, you'll sometimes find that if you shake them, I mean, normally when you shake them, you can hear a bit of sloshing around anyway, but I've heard some like older ones when they're like about, say, like 3-4 year old, 5-year-old, depending on the make and quality of them, where there's too much sloshing around, where they've lost it. Some of them, it's been a while since I've seen them. They actually have a port where you can actually refill them, but they tend to have done that way with a lot of them, probably to make sure we don't mess anything up, but it's also to make you buy another one as well. Anyway. Like I said, I don't do this for any kind of clout or anything. I just do it just got a bit of time on my hands, and if people ask me questions and I think, well, I've been doing this kind of stuff since 2002-ish, Most of the stuff I know is through trial and error and things that have gone wrong, and I've just learned as I've gone along. So if I come across anything that can help anybody, normally that's when I come on here and just ramble on for a while. Anyway, bye.